Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Open Source Diaries. I bet you didn't know open source touches like another part of like our existence outside of technology. Today, we're going to be looking at open source in microbial science and what that is all about, what that means. And we have a very fantastic speaker who is a major in this area, Svetlana, who is going to be talking all about how microbiology intersects with open source and technology and all of the interesting bits within it. Hello, Svetlana. Welcome to our episode today.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for the invitation. It's really my pleasure to be part of your diaries in open source.
Thank you. All right. So, first off, I'd like to say I am so interested in our conversations because, as someone who graduated from microbiology, I didn't know it touches across this part of like technology and all of that. And so, I would love to hear all about it. But before we do, can you tell me a bit about yourself and your professional background, how you transcended from like just the microbiome aspects of things to include technology into the bits of it?
Okay, you made several questions, so I
Okay,
will
I think
start
you
with
can
the
just tell us a
first.
bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay, first I will introduce myself. So I'm Svetlana. I'm a microbiome researcher at the University of Trento, Italy, and I'm working on several international microbiome projects. I have been doing microbiome science since my PhD in 2005. So this year is my microbiome science anniversary, 20
Oh,
years. Yeah. So after my PhD, I have worked as a postdoctoral researcher in 5 different labs in 5 different countries: Serbia, UK, Portugal, China, and now Italy. And this all has given me a broad international perspective on microbiome research. Currently, I'm actively involved with a project like BuxingDB within the bioconductor community and curated metagenomic data ran by Segata and Waldron Labs. Those both projects are community driven, so global efforts in standardizing data, so microbiome data analysis and data sharing. And what I also would like to add is that I have been supporting global open science and open source initiatives more than 5 years through programs like Outreachy and the National Summer Undergraduate Research Projects. So you should check them out. That's the first part of your question. And then the second part is how I did that transition from microbiology technology to open source. Yeah. So let me first explain how microbiome science operates. So it's truly interdisciplinary, so requiring teams of microbiologists, the bioinformaticians, and other specialists. Depends on the research question. And our work spanned through two crucial environments. One is dry lab. First actually is wet lab and the second is dry lab. Why I said that the first is wet lab? Because in wet lab we process and analyze physical samples, and dry lab is where we handle the computational analysis of the resulting data. So what's fascinating about this is that in dry lab component of microbiome science, we rely on almost entirely on open source tools and databases. And after spending years working primarily in wet lab, I found myself naturally transitioning to dry lab work. Actually, most microbiome scientists at one point of their study work in both environments. They do both wet and dry lab work.
okay. I think for a start, I didn't know that there was the dry and the wet aspect. I think in universities, right, they make us believe that it's mostly, staying in the labs. And I thought that was not exciting for like microbiology. But now hearing that there's like the computational aspect of things is really fascinating. And it makes me wonder, like, what other aspects like this touches across. I think you've you just talked about like all the exciting things you're doing, and I honestly didn't know that you could do all of that, you know, creative, innovative stuff, but like with biology science. I think that's something that's not taught a lot in schools, or at least from schools where I am from.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, microbiome science is, let's say, relatively new science, and it exists for a long time. But as a terminology and as a separate science from biological and microbiological field, microbiome science exists let's say a relatively short time. Let's first explain what is microbiome science and what is actually the connection of open source, and then when we can discuss it more. Microbiome science, okay, probably you know, but your audience maybe needs some clarification, is studies the communities of tiny organisms such as bacteria, fungi, archaea, viruses, microscopic eukaryotes. So they live in certain environments. So we have soil microbiome, drinking water microbiome, human microbiome, animal microbiome. So, for example, the human microbiome is a microbial community that lives in and on our body, particularly in places like gut, skin, mouth. And these microorganisms play crucial roles in our overall health, helping with the digestion, autoimmune system, and protecting us from pathogens, harmful. And when the microbiome balance is disrupted, it's called dysbiosis, it can lead to various health issues, including digestive problems, autoimmune disease, etc. So, microbiome science actually depends on open source, because when you analyze millions of sequences, so biological information from diverse microbial communities, you need a collaborative tool developed by broader scientific community. Why? Because many labs simply don't have their resources for solutions for the analysis, and they depend on shared reference databases that are constantly growing and evolving. So the field microbiome field itself has grown alongside open source culture, and I think this is beautiful. So making reproducibility possible, allowing standardized methods that let researchers compare findings globally. Here in microbiome science, open collaboration isn't just like preferable, it's practically essential for scientific progress.
That's interesting. So I'm curious, right? What is the significant role? Because you say when you talk about the dry aspects of things, open source tends to like play a huge role. And I'm wondering like what is the significant role of open source tools or open source in general to like microbiome science in particular?
Yeah. So open source, as you just said, so open source tools are becoming increasingly essential in biological sciences, but especially in microbiome science, I would say. So open source tools in microbiome science currently form a hierarchical ecosystem with core repositories such as NCBI, INA, DDBJ. Then, so open source tools, they serve as a critical infrastructure for a dry lab. Yeah. So the other tools build upon, for example, BLAST. BLAST is a basic local alignment search tool. So it compares primary biological sequencing information. So many tools rely on this tool. Then there is an interconnected network where tools depend on and integrate with each other. So we
Yeah.
have integration of several tools to make microbiome data for analysis done. And then we have also different platforms developments like Galaxy that combine multiple specialized tools. And these all rely on shared reference databases for taxonomic and functional analysis of bacteria or microorganisms. So what is common to all those tools and databases that I just named, but there are a lot, I just named few like very, very important, is interdependent relationship. They are quite connected. So I also would like to share some like specific examples of tools and databases that impacted our field. I just named a few seconds before, just to add some more. So first, as I started to mention, repositories. So NCBI, INA, and DDBJ, these repositories are very, very critical for biological data storage and access. So they house raw sequencing data from big projects such as Star Oceans, for example. Then I mentioned BLAST. This is a tool that numerous other tools rely on, for example, Kraken, Metaflan. Then reference databases, Silva, RDP, UniProt for taxonomic and functional reference data for many analysis. I would also mention Chime tool and Data tool. They are quite big tools. I mean, big tool in terms of quite frequently used in amplicon microbiome analysis. And then, to be honest, when you contact me for this interview, I was thinking, okay, maybe if you will ask me to name only one tool as a big star example of open source
I think
in
you can do that.
yeah, in microbiome science, then I was thinking, okay, this is like quite a tough question that I just imagine, and then that I actually questioned myself. And the first thing that came to my mind is Envio. So Envio is really like a long-lasting, well-maintained, and frequently used tool from 2015, maintained by Marin Lab, and it's fully open source, and they have now version 8, community around it, and they provide a platform for analysis and visualization of microbiome data. So this tool is something that you should check it out if you are interested in microbiome science. Yeah, beside this Envio tool, what I really also would like to mention while I was thinking about your diaries, what I should not miss to say is there is a platform called PubMed, and it's a platform for comprehensive, it's actually a comprehensive platform for accessing research articles. And unlike fields such as physics, which still often rely on Google for literature search, this is a really nice unified resource available for searching, for example, different microbiome science literature, studies, etc.
That's interesting. I think now listening to all of these tools, right? I am now curious. How do you see open data, right, coming to play in like advancing this microbiome research, and how is that data from that angle managed on a long run, especially since this like open source, but then we're also trying to bring in other industries into it. How is the data from this part managed, that you could say is probably different from other niches?
Yeah. So open data and playing a role in advancing microbiome research is essential because it allows scientists worldwide to access and analyze diverse data sets. And this is very, very important if you want to have like robust findings. For example, our BugSigDB project, where we curate microbiome signatures from different health status studies and conditions, and also from different countries. It has benefited greatly from contributions that expanded the database with, for example, microbiome data from African studies. The open data and progress in this way is quite important. Like in every science, now today we talk about microbiome science. So still we in open data sharing have challenges, as I mentioned, to challenges that we need to solve to have let's say a better progress. So we need to standardize data formats, so how we share and what we share. Also, it's very important to have metadata, so data about the data, so where we collected samples, how, etc. And also because every day we have more and more data to share, so it's really critical to create a proper infrastructure for storage and for sharing the large sequencing data sets.
Interesting. So now talking about sharing data, right? Now I know in open source when we're talking about like anything open source, collaboration is at the forefront of everything. So now I'm wondering what is like collaboration like both in the science between sciences and open source. How do like microbiome researchers collaborate effectively using open source platforms? Is it any different from the technological focus project, or how
I
is it
I
done
don't know.
exactly?
Yeah, I don't know the differences because I have never ever worked out of microbiome science. So I can't tell you that, but I can tell you from my experience in microbiome science how it looks like. So I mentioned already the tools and databases, and where the structure of these tools enables collaboration and vice versa. Collaboration enables tools, and databases. For example, shared repositories and databases. They serve as central hubs for researchers to deposit and access others raw data, and it's actually very important to have this access. Then there is an interconnected nature of tools like Chime, NVO, Galaxy, that suggest researchers to build upon each other's method and analysis and do compatible workflows. And then platform integration is there as well. So Galaxy platform specifically, I mentioned it. So it suggests facilitation of sharing the standardized analytical pipelines between researchers. And also the reference standards, for example, databases like Silva, RDP, Uniprot, they are used for taxonomic and functional frameworks. So people are sharing there also the reference database, reference data. So when I say people, I mean microbiome scientists and established labs at different research institutions and universities. So this ecosystem that I just described implies a really like true collaborative environment where researchers build upon shared data using common analytical frameworks and also sharing their workflows and methodologies.
Yeah, and now I'm curious, right? How do or are there any ethical, considerations or maybe challenges that come in the process of like integrating some of these tools? And is there a possibility that it could actually affect the openness or accessibility of these microbiome data afterwards? Because I imagine that there are lots of like tools that are being integrated in the process, and some of them may not be open. So, like, are there considerations that come in from that point in time, and how does that work?
This is a very important point, and I would add them also on to-do list of our microbiome science community to work more on these ethical considerations, and I will just name the most important ones. The first one I would say is ensuring equitable access to research opportunities and tools. And also what we do in a BugSigDB project, also it's very important to do a proper attribution and recognition of contributors. And also there are ongoing efforts, but still not finished addressing potential privacy concerns with human microbiome data, as you mentioned before. And what I would really like to highlight that it's very important to ensure diversity in the research participation and dataset that we are using to avoid so biased conclusions.
So now talking about like trying to get more persons and make it like as inclusive as possible, how can researchers and maybe scientists, right, who have very little experience with maybe coding aspects, how can they contribute to microbiome science researches or projects? How can they get involved?
Okay, so not only researchers and scientists, I would say any person who is like strongly interested in microbiome science can contribute. And there are different ways. If you have a limited coding experience, you can start to explore open source projects, microbiome projects, and for example, improve documentation and creating tutorials while you are testing tool, or provide feedback to the team that developed the tool. So make a first contact and try to contribute to reference databases or metadata curation. These non-coding contributions are valuable for making tools and databases like more accessible, accurate, widely adopted throughout the scientific community. So this is very important to have contribution like this, non-coding contributions. And then once you feel more comfortable in your non-coding activities, I'm pretty sure that you will start to code. That happened to me. So my advice would be to start with those simple non-coding not simple, still important contributions. Then contact the tool developers, for example, or project team, give them a feedback, and then try to make a suggestion of what could be your contribution to their project or tool.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So, I'd like to retrace our steps back a bit. And I know that I came across your profile from the Microbiome Virtual International Forum, right? And I'd like you to tell us a bit about your work there and what this forum is all about. And if anyone is interested in participating, how can they also get involved?
Yeah. Okay. So the MWIF is a non-profit initiative, and I'm really proud to be part of since its first forum launched in September 2021. So MWIF serves as a platform for international collaboration and knowledge sharing in microbiome science. And we host monthly events where researchers can present their work and join discussions for free. So, and we plays a really, I would say, important role in connecting microbiome researchers globally, particularly those who might otherwise have limited opportunities to engage with the international scientific community. And my role within the MVIF community focuses on global communication. So I work to facilitate clear and effective interactions between MVIF and microbiome researchers and people who are interested in microbiome science. And I'm making sure that we have inclusive environment that welcomes microbiome scientists from around the world. And if any one of our listeners are interested to join us, we are always happy to and we are always open to welcoming new members and contributors. So there are like different tasks and there are different contributions that you can make in organizing events, making sure that our platform work or some tasks in social media activities, etc. So yeah, you can contact me and we can talk about your contribution to MWIF.
Thank you so much. And also, you can always hit Svetlana up so she can get you started on any questions you have after this. But I also want to know more. Assuming someone gets into this space, right? And I know so many persons may have these questions. How does one transition from someone who's just interested in microbiome science to maybe leadership to actually doing real work, right? Aside maybe just fixing the documentation or making minor fixes within the project that they're involved in, how can they transition into positions of leadership? Are there courses to take? Are there any other things they can do to upskill?
Okay, first, before leadership, I would say that first they should join the community and contribute for some time. So I would suggest to explore community editable platforms like BugsigDB. Then you can join supportive communities like Bioconductor, NVIF community. You can engage in our discussions. You can learn there more about the ongoing projects. Then I would really encourage people to look for internship opportunities through programs like Outreachy and SERP. And yeah, and then when you think you are ready for like a leadership role, first I think that you should be a great team player. Yeah. So that's something that you should really feel like comfortable. So to actively engage with the community, share ideas, and support others. What is the like key is to develop effective communication skill. So communication is quite important in open source, especially because everything is online. So you have to be very clear, concise, and before all kind. So to understand each other. And once you understand both technical aspect and the community dynamics, you can, I'm pretty sure, take the leadership role and yeah, follow your ideas. But before that, as I said, becoming a team player is quite important.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And you heard her. First of all, get involved in the communities. And now
Yeah.
I like to trace back because you mentioned that anyone who is interested in like microbiome science, right, and wants to get involved can actually kickstart their contribution journey. I wonder, are there like career opportunities aside maybe becoming a researcher or being a field player with the wet aspects of things where you're in the lab? Are there career opportunities that exist at the intersection of like microbiome science, data, and open source?
Yes, sure. So there are researcher positions in academia focusing on microbiome data analysis that you just mentioned, but there are also data analysis and bioinformatics positions in research institutions or biotech companies. Then position within communities like community management for open source biological projects. That's also quite exciting. Then there are mentoring and training roles in programs like Outreach, Answer, software, carpentry, and also there are roles in science communication, so focused on more microbiome science and different open source initiatives.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And before we go like wrap up, do you have
Mhm.
any final thoughts for our audience or any message at all you'd have there for anyone who would like to, chase in this career path just like yourself?
I strongly encourage you to adopt proactive mindset and to remain open to learning throughout your journey in open source. Take the initiative, engage with the communities, share your ideas. And what I really like to highlight, and I'm repeating, I think to my community in BugsigDB almost every day. Don't hesitate to ask questions when you need clarity. So just ask questions. And also, yeah, what we mentioned today is teamwork and team players. So remember that teamwork is a really highly valued quality and focus on collaboration. Um, and finally, enjoy. Yeah, enjoy.
Okay, thank you so much for these insightful conversations, Svetlana. And so, if you are currently watching this, I hope this is enough motivation to know that whether you're in a non-technical background, you can also do so much work in open source regardless of where you find yourself. And that being said, thank you so much for watching today's episode, and thank you, Svetlana, for honoring us with all of these insightful conversations. And that will be all for today's episode.